This show is brought to you by Vietnam Visas. So I headed to Vietnam in late 2018, and one of the things that I didn't think of and that not many people think of is whether they need a visa or not. I was just imagining the amazing food and beautiful Ha Long Bay, but luckily for Vietnam Visas, they make the whole visa process so easy. So to book your visa, please go to the link in the show notes. So how do you solve a problem like Mariah? As my brother said, spoiler alert, you can't. So there you go, I'm just an Australian girl with the world at her feet, working in public relations and communications, who is learning about life and myself every single day. Join me as I tell you stories, share my outlook on life, and just talk utter garbage. This podcast is where I talk about my world, your world, and the world around us, to hopefully inspire or just entertain. But it'll be fun, I promise. In today's episode, I have a special guest to talk about all things happiness and how you can shop each day to feeling a lot happier in your own life. So let's get started. Welcome, I'm back for another episode of How Do You Solve a Problem Like Mariah? And before I jump into my special guest for this episode, I just want to talk about routine and getting out of routine. So as you know, because of the black eye, the trip to New Zealand, and just the public holidays with Easter and Anzac Day for those in Australia and New Zealand, I found myself not going to the gym as much, eating absolute junk, and probably going out a lot more, or just like being out of the house and not being home during the week. And I just wanted to let you guys know that it's perfectly okay to have that little break from your routine. I mean, I'm so glad to get back into it, but I had so much fun. Shout out to my awesome housemate, Abby, who got myself and her tickets to Anzac Day football match. I'm a Bombers fan, so those who like AFL know that's a massive game. And she surprised me, which was amazing. I'll put a video in the show notes of my reaction when she gave me the tickets, because one of the girls filmed it. But you know, you reflect on those fun times, and I don't regret breaking my routine or eating junk or, you know, going out, because I had fun, and they're the memories that will last that little bit longer than sticking to my routine. But at the same time, as long as you can get back into it. So I'm back into it now, full fit girl, meal prepped, and going to the gym. I'm really sore from the gym because obviously I had some time off. So anyway, and just another thing for the 20th episode coming up, I'm thinking of doing more of a special episode. So just let me know what you want me to talk about, or what you think I should do. I'm not really sure where it's going to go or if I will, but just let me know what you think. And just one last thing, just to make our year better for 2019, set a happiness routine. So the special guest today will share hers and give great tips on how you can start yours. But it's really good just to have one, even if you don't do it all the time, just so that when you're feeling a bit down, you can pick yourself up again. So mine is definitely my miracle morning, which I've spoken about before in recent episodes. But it is really an hour in the morning where I journal about what I want in life and just journal about the day, memories, key events. I meditate, I do some exercise, I read, and I just get some stuff done on my to-do list. So, you know, I know if I have done the miracle morning at least once or twice a week, I feel really good about that week. But if I am feeling a bit down, just trying to like be a bit productive and get some things ticked off your list, or, you know, going to the gym. The gym is amazing when you're feeling a bit crappy. Or even, you know, just meditating is also great, or doing something a little bit more active. So now it's time to listen to the interview I had with my special guest. So her name is Simona Costantini. She's a podcaster and blogger, and describes herself as a storyteller with a passion for people. Self-love and acceptance fuels her, as well as stories people tell in order to define who they are. She wants to live the life that she wants to live, as well as inspires others to do the same. She motivates people to make a change, and her obsession with finding her purpose in life is why I wanted her to come on the show, as she shares her happiness hacks and life experiences. So let's hear from Simona. Welcome to my show, and thanks for joining, Simona. So firstly, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on your show today. My name is Simona, and I work in communications, and I'm a writer, but I love to call myself a life influencer. I always like to kind of differentiate between this and a coach because I'm definitely not a coach, but my goal is to help people live their most purposeful, on purpose life. And how I kind of achieve this is by giving my, thoughts, inputs, and perspectives on real life topics and things that people face every day and things that people might not want to talk about. And I share them through my blog and through my podcast, which is called Happiness Happens. And it gives me, a really cool platform to be able to share all of my stories and thoughts and perspectives and talk about the things that people might be thinking but not necessarily saying. So I guess really at the end of the day, I just really want people to feel like they can relate to someone, even if they're going through something really difficult, or even if they're in a really good place in their life, and know that if they feel a certain way, that's totally okay.
That's awesome. So, what drove you to actually create your blog and podcast to share your learnings on happiness?
Yes, this is a great question because it's always like, where did you start, right?
Yeah.
I started sharing my learnings on happiness after being so incredibly unhappy with my life. And for years I lived in so much unhappiness, and I was so judgmental, so ungrateful for my life, and so ungrateful for all the things that I had and where I was in life. And I was always wanting more and just really never satisfied with what I had. And I lived in this state for so long, and then all of a sudden I just kind of had this wake up call, that I didn't want to feel like this anymore. And, I started getting these like life nudges of feelings of more, like I should be doing more, being more, but I didn't know how to achieve that more because I was so blinded by negativity and all these preconceived ideas that I had that, it just blinds everything, and you can't grasp onto that next thing because you're so absorbed in yourself. So, the podcast came after quite a few months of doing therapy, actually.
Yeah.
Because in this journey of all of this unhappiness and judgment and all this stuff, I decided that I needed help. So I started going to therapy, and I feel like this is a topic that some people might think is taboo, but
Yeah.
I like to talk about it because so many people go to therapy in secret and will never tell you, to work through the hard stuff that they want to get over in their life. So I started doing, so I started doing therapy. I started doing meditation. This was just this past August, actually, where I really discovered what meditation was. I'd never done it before. I couldn't sit still for more than 5 minutes. So it was really difficult, but it was a really good challenge. And I attended my first retreat. And because of this retreat, it was such a life changing moment for me. And it made me realize that I wasn't alone in how I was feeling, and that people really should never be alone or feel like they have to live life being stuck in where they are, and that it's okay to choose to be happier and want more for yourself, and to choose new friends that lift you up instead of friends that bring you down, and to live your life how you want to live your life without expectations of other people. And before I sort of dove into doing all of this stuff, this is complete opposite of how I was feeling before. And when I started doing the work on myself, I really wanted to have something where I could share information with other people. So then I thought about doing a podcast. So that's really kind of how the podcast came to being. And, I talk a lot about things that people don't want to acknowledge in their lives, and different things that make us unhappy or things that make us happy, and, how to create space for what it is you want to do and how to get yourself unstuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think it's like, I always love to say, like, I think that being happy or like being in a state of happiness is just an emotion. It's like sadness, or it's like being upset or being fearful. And so I like to define happiness through peace. And so I call my podcast Happiness Happens. But really, you can't achieve happiness without peace. And, peace being things that are like harmonious and balance in life, if you will. So I guess people have this misconception with happiness, in that you're always supposed to be happier, and that you're always supposed to be doing, all this great stuff, and that if you're not, that something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But the truth, like, is you can't get happy without going through the hard stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's awesome. Like, I think when you said, you tapped in and started working on yourself and you found that you're becoming happier. And I think that's like one of those little life secrets that people don't really know about, that if they actually start working on themselves a little bit more, that they're going to be a
Yeah,
lot happier, and then they can help others. And I think, it's great that you're trying to educate people on that, because it is so easy, and it makes such a massive difference. So, what do you think people can do straight away to start feeling happier right now?
I think one of the biggest things is to know that you can live with feelings of happiness and feelings of unhappiness together at the same time. And when you can acknowledge that, it actually allows you to start feeling happier in your life, because you can acknowledge that you're allowed to feel super thrilled about something, and at the same time feel super, super sad about something,
Yeah.
and know that you've found balance in both of them. So that you can be happier. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like,
Yeah, no, I yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
like, in my mind it does, but
Yeah. No, it's like you're trying to say that it's just like accepting the fact that, even you might think that to be happy, you have to be happy all the time. But one of the things I
exactly,
say is like happiness is a journey, not a destination. So if your end goal destination is when your life finishes, you might as well try and be happy within that time, instead of waiting on things to suddenly be, oh, I'll be happy when this happens. I'll be happier when
exactly,
that happens. But at the same
because we're
time,
constantly moving.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And like accepting that, you're going to have a bad day, but the next day is going to be better. So I understand what you mean. It's like being happy about something in your life and being happy about something else, being unhappy about something else at the same time. It makes complete sense.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah. I'd say also one of the other things that people can start doing, that's more, tangible, if you will, is to start counting your blessings as soon as you start to feel upset about something or ungrateful about something. Because if you think about a time like you've ever sat in, a situation where you're super, super unhappy, or something's really bugging you. And I don't know if you've ever done this before, but like if something really bothers you, you create like 100 different scenarios in your head,
Yeah.
and you have like, a list of things you could say to the person who's made you so mad, and like, oh, if I see them, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say this, this, and this. And if you stop and take a moment and just pause, you actually allow yourself to just give yourself a break. And when you replace thoughts of like ramping yourself up for, all the things that you can say to counter what that person or what that situation made you feel, and make space for gratitude in your life, you change your mood. So what I like to do is like, okay, I have some serious road rage when I'm driving. Like, Toronto has the worst traffic, probably worse than LA. And I hate driving.
Yeah.
And every time I'm behind the wheel, I get so frustrated because people just drive absolutely crazy. And what I've started doing over the last few months, actually, is every time I'm sitting in my car and I'm like so frustrated about driving, I sit and I start thinking like, okay, well, I'm grateful that I have a car. I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I have gas in my car. I'm grateful that I have tires that take me to where I need to go. I'm grateful that my car will bring me to wherever I need to be. I'm grateful that I get to see my friend because of my car. Like, all those kinds
Yeah.
of things. And then, you removed yourself from the situation of being super annoyed
Yeah.
about something, and have given yourself the opportunity to be a little bit happier.
Yeah, no, I've done this before. On my I have a long commute as well. I drive about an hour to get home, and
Oh, wow.
I was like, I just don't want to drive home. I just want to be home. And then in the car, like, that's why I listen to my podcasts, or, I ring my parents, or, I just like take time to just think about, the day and just process the day. So now I actually really like my drive home, because it's almost like my wind down. So I think, yeah, it's just trying to look at something that you don't like and trying to find something you do like in that scenario, or what it can bring you. and it'll change your perspective. I have tried that. It does work. It is great.
I love that. And I love that, you've turned something that you like really don't like into like an opportunity to find an hour to enjoy something else in your life. Like, calling your parents or calling your family and keeping in touch and building connections and, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, if you're always like racing around here, there and everywhere and you don't take time for yourself, I mean, you don't get to do those things, right? Or you feel like it's all rushed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So, I listened to one of your recent two episodes about you talked about doubt, and if you have doubt with something in the time, say now, then and you don't address it, then you're gonna have doubt, years later. So I just wanted you to explain a little bit more on this, and I think you mentioned, listening to your inner self when you've got doubt about something. I really liked this concept. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on doubt.
For sure. I think that doubt is an extension of fear. And a lot of the time, a lot of the negative emotions that we have towards things are based in fear. But doubt in specific is a big one because we always make up excuses as to why we can't or we shouldn't do something, even if it's something we really want to do. And more often than not, it's because we doubt ourselves and we don't believe that we can actually do it.
Yeah.
So when you doubt things, it means that you don't believe in yourself or in them. And with this concept, it's like the more you listen to your doubt, the more you'll start to believe that it's true.
Yeah.
So if for like an example, just out of the blue, you might want to start a podcast. And, a lot of the time, if you want to start something, and let's use podcasts for an example, you'll go through all the scenarios of why you shouldn't do something. And a lot of the times, the same stories that we start to tell ourselves are like, oh, no one is ever going to listen to it, or no one is going to care about what I have to say, or, no one cares about my message, or nobody needs it. So you never start your podcast because you doubt that anyone would ever want to listen to it. So you've taken away that opportunity for someone who is waiting for your message, who you may not even know yet, and someone who's waiting for you to hear what you have to say, and you can be impacting people so significantly, but you would never achieve that because you've doubted yourself to begin with.
Yeah, no, that's good. Like, I think what you said is just like addressing the doubt, writing it down and actually looking at it. I think if you look at, your fears, once you've written them down or you've said them out loud, they probably don't sound as bad as what you think.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think, doubt brings in a lot of insecurities, and if you don't address them and you just go on with your life, it's just going to come back to get you in a different scenario. So
exactly.
I really liked that concept on doubt. And also you talked about reflection. So what does reflection mean to you?
I love reflection because without reflection, I mean, you don't, in my opinion, without reflection, like you need reflection, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it gives you an opportunity to evaluate, where you're at. Yeah. And you can reflect on so many things. You can reflect on your day. You can reflect on what you did this past week, what you did this past month. You can reflect on what you want to do in the future, how you treated a person, how you treated yourself. Like you can reflect on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we can reflect on different things as well, like, how we wish we didn't react to things and what we can do differently next time. So when you give yourself the opportunity to reflect on something, you give yourself the possibility and the opportunity, for lack of better words, to look at the different parts of your day and, all the different parts that make you you. Yeah. And, it gives you the chance to improve on things that you don't like, or the different little things of yourself that you really want to improve on, and it also, on like a complete other side, gives you the opportunity to acknowledge and love all the little things that you do and all the little things that you're proud of. So I feel like when we don't reflect on stuff, we don't give ourselves a chance to pause and to take a moment to see how much progress we've made, or, to take the time to be proud of all the things that we've accomplished, because you don't give yourself that space and you just keep going through the motions of life. And then
Yeah.
you kind of look back one day and you're like, oh, like, look at all the things that I've done. Like, you know, I've done a lot of stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we all lose track of the amazing accomplishments. I think I kind of try and do this every 3 months, like properly. But are there any ways that you reflect? Do you journal, or is there a method of your reflection?
There is and there isn't. So I kind of go through phases of proper reflection.
Yeah.
I can be very, very good. I have to be honest, I'm terrible at like a morning routine.
Yeah.
And so more often than not, I put journaling into my morning routine, and I wake up extra early to be able to write down, you know, some things, and I'll meditate, and, you know, that kind of stuff it's amazing. And I know that I always feel so much better when I do it, but in truth, like, I'm not consistent with it.
Yeah.
But when I am, you know, and when I reflect in two different kinds of ways, like in more of a proper way, if you will, like with,
Yeah.
you know, meditation and journaling and that kind of stuff. And then just like informally, for lack of a better words,
Yeah.
with like, you know, walking my dog or
Yeah.
driving or what have you.
Yeah, and I think like that form of reflection is probably a little bit more sustainable for most people. We don't
Yeah,
always have time to sit down and write or what, and especially a lot of people don't really like to write.
exactly.
So I think like if there's walking a dog or something that people can just take that hour to just think about the things they've done, or even in the shower. I listened to a podcast, and this this the guest on the podcast, she has 2 kids, so her morning routine is just horrible. And she says in the shower she just takes some time to think about the things she wants to achieve for the day, but then also the things that she did the day before, and where she's been and what she's done. So I think everyone can try and find a little bit of time. It'll definitely improve happiness. I really like the concept of reflection.
I totally agree with you. And I love that you said like in the shower, because
Yeah,
when I think about it, like you really do like your best thinking in the shower. Like
exactly.
you can accomplish so much while you're washing your hair, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And washing your hair is a process for all women. So there's a lot of time to reflect in there. So obviously you said, your morning routines can be a little bit inconsistent. Mornings are always hard. But what is your happiness routine? Your perfect ideal happiness routine?
So if it's like the perfect routine, it's that I wake up in the morning, I don't check social media. As soon as I wake up, I start to list off the things in my mind that I'm grateful for, because it instantly changes your mood.
Yeah.
And I would meditate.
Yeah.
And then journal, and then I would start my day.
Yeah.
Those things all together really allow me to start my day like on the best foot possible.
Yeah.
So if it's a day where I don't get to do all of those things, I wake up and immediately think of all the things that, no, I lied to you. I wake up and then I check my social media.
Yeah.
And then I start to think about all the things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And, and then I find that sometimes, your thoughts and your mentality can be a little bit like, oh, like I really don't want to get up and go to work, or I don't want to get up and do whatever. So when I start saying those things, I catch myself and I change the story around it. So I change it from I have to go to work to I get to go to work. I get to go into my car. I get to drive to work. I get to sit at my desk. Like I get to do all of these things.
Yeah.
And it instantly changes your perspective, and it sets the mood for the entire day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's awesome. Like, I think, we all would love to ideally get up early and get things done, but it's not going to happen every day. We all need to be a little bit realistic. I try to, but there's days where I just want to stay in bed. But I think I really like that concept of I get to, not I have to.
Right? And it allows you to like make like a constant, like conscious effort to let things that are out of your control not impact you, and let them roll off your back. Like that's a really, really hard thing to do. But if you're able to switch the story around the things that you say, you don't care so much about all the things in your day that can make you upset. And it's kind of like, is this going to matter in 3 days? No, probably not. So like, is it worth sitting here and getting that upset about? Like,
yeah,
not really. So that's another thing. Like, I'm really big on like stories that I tell myself.
Yeah.
And, it's always about just and it's not about ignoring all those stories. It's about, like, you can let yourself think them, but it's once you've thought of them, it's like, okay, like, let's just take a hold, like, get a hold on this, and let's switch it now into something that's different
Yeah, no,
and more
that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So do you actually have a happiness guru that you look up to and you get all your amazing hacks on happiness from?
I have a few.
Yeah.
So they kind of come and go with, like, how, you know, how much I've grown, or the different things that I've learned, or different books that I've read. Someone that I'm loving so much right now is Jay Shetty. I think he's awesome. Listening to his podcast is like instantly better mood. He has so much, insight, and he's so like motivating, know. And then a second one would be Brene Brown right now. And I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't even know who she was until I watched her Netflix special. I don't know if you saw it,
Oh,
but
no. What is it?
amazing. I will have to get you the name of it because I don't remember, but
Yeah, cool.
it was so amazing. It was on, and it's like a Netflix original.
Yeah.
And oh, it was amazing. It was like an hour and a half talk that she did about, all of these different, like, perspective. Like, she was just amazing.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And then, in addition to that, I have, like, a lot of people that are, like, in my circle that bring me so much happiness.
Yeah.
And the more you surround yourself with people that you love and that inspire you, the more happiness you allow in your life. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's great. Well, you'll have to we'll have to get the Netflix so I can put in my show notes so people can have a listen. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
watch. So what's next for you on your journey?
I'm not exactly sure. And I love this question because I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I started speaking at different events here and there. So I'm really excited for more speaking opportunities in the future. I'm doing one this upcoming week, and
awesome.
and then the week after that as well. So that's really exciting. And I'm looking to expand my podcast with guest speakers and, interviews. And it's not something that I've done yet. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think, honestly, just living as an honest person who is aiming to inspire people to live their lives authentically and on purpose.
Yeah.
And so I hope that continues to be shown throughout my podcast and speaking opportunities, and, potentially a book. I've thought about writing a book.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think it all would be really awesome.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I really want to get more involved with things that are, like, important to me, and causes that are helping other people, and, just being more present in life. So I feel like that's kind of where I'm headed right now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It sounds like you've got a lot of exciting things coming up. And I think one of the most important things is if you're living your purpose and you are giving back to what you are so passionate about, I think everything else falls into place because you're working so hard
Totally
towards
does.
it. So
Oh, I agree with you completely.
yeah, that's awesome. So I have a quote that I live by, which mine was happiness is a journey, not a destination. So do you have one that you live by that you could share?
Yes, I have 3. Can I share all 3 of them?
Absolutely.
I read them, like, on a daily basis. I have them in the notes, like, in my phone.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever read the book, The 4 Agreements. Have you ever read it?
No, I haven't. I'll have to put it on my
It's
list.
really, really good. And I read it recently, and it was awesome. And so essentially the 4 agreements in this book are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So I always find myself kind of gravitating back to those 4 key areas.
Yeah.
Because they're true. I mean, you can't do one without the other, and you can't do your best without being impeccable with your word or not taking things personally. So I find them good reminders.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, and then have you ever heard of Gabby Bernstein?
Yeah.
Okay, I read her book, The Judgment Detox.
Yeah.
And this is, like, more from my days of being super judgmental and insecure. And it's I forgive this thought and I choose again. So
oh yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah, that's
it's so good, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you're in any kind of thought that you don't want to have right now, you literally give yourself an opportunity to pick a new one.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then as my final, like, last quote, it's: when you can't find the sunshine, be the sunshine.
Oh,
I love
that one.
Yeah. Little light and fluffy,
Yeah, that's good for, like, the climate. Well, I guess for you living in Canada, and I live in Melbourne, which is the winter isn't as cold, but it's just so dark and gloomy sometimes.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, so I think that's a great one for winter. It's a good winter quote.
Yeah, it is. It totally is.
So before we wrap up, is there any advice or anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, as a closing thought, I really find that we find purpose in helping other people. So if you're thinking that you're someone that wants to be someone that helps somebody else, never doubt your ability to do that. And even if you're hesitant, just always know that people need you and they need your message, they need your story, and they need your light and your smile. And most of the time, people just need someone to care. And, if you want to be that person, but you're not sure if you should be that person to help others, it'll impact them so much more than you'll ever know, And with that, it's like, you'll always have 100 reasons why you shouldn't do something, and people will always be there kind of against you. But remembering why you started in the first place and what motivates you is so key, and it keeps you on track for all the places that you're supposed to be in life and the things you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much for that. I think everyone instantly feels a lot happier now, surely. So where can we find you so everyone can listen to your message and learn more about happiness and improving their lives?
For sure. So my podcast is called Happiness Happens, and it's on iTunes and it's on Spotify. I'm looking to get it on a few more places, but that's just where it is for right now. Yeah. And if you want to find me on Instagram, it's at Simona.Nicole. And I use my middle name because my last name is so incredibly long and people can't pronounce it or remember it. So I just cut that one out. Yeah. I just cut off the last name so that it's just easier. Yeah, and there's also a link to my podcast in there as well that you can go to.
Yeah, and what's your blog called?
It's my name. Well, it's just my name. So it's SimonaNicole.com. I like to keep everything consistent, just to make it easy for people to find.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Now, I'm sure there's some great tips that you can take in, but she's just a breath of fresh air. So that was a really great episode, and talking to Simona was really, really cool. Making connections internationally is always a lot of fun. But before I go, I just want to leave you with a quote, and it's about happiness. So happiness is letting go of what you think your life is supposed to look like. So don't worry about what anyone else is doing and what you or what others expect your life to look like. Live the life that you want to live. Don't do things to a time limit. As I've said before, life isn't a grocery list. So live it how you want to live it. Now, that's all I have time for this week. But as I sign off, just don't forget, one of the keys to happiness is to always love yourself. So if you don't love yourself, it's really hard for someone else to love you. And you'll find once you spend more time on yourself and love yourself, the happiness will just continue to flow. All right, catches. Now, I hope you got something out of today's show. And if you like this podcast, please don't forget to tell your amazing friends. Or if you just want to take the time to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, it'll only take a few minutes, but it'll really help for other people to see this show. And if you want to look at any more information on the show, you can do so by clicking the show note link in the description. Or if you want to chat with me, you can find me on Instagram at _Mariah Mackinnis_ or at my Travelers page at A Traveller's Antics. Or you can find me on email, mariah_Mackinnis22@outlook.com. I would love to hear from you. Any feedback, any comments, or anything you want me to talk about on the show, I would really, really love to hear from you. But if you want to read more content, I have some blogs on my travel page at atravelersAntics.blog. And if you want to read about my New Zealand journey, it's just an extended to the podcast. You'll hear about the triumphs and the challenges and everything that we went through, as well as looking at the amazing pictures of New Zealand. I think it's just worth clicking on to see those. So make sure you have the most amazing fortnight, and I'll talk to you next time.